World Cup's finally over, and Spain has won the FIFA World Cup 2026 after convincing victory over Argentina. A 1-0 victory, maybe so, but it was pretty decisive, and Spain has completely dominated every other team that they have ever faced in the last 3 years, and they have been crowned as champions of the world very convincingly and rightfully so. Now that the season's over, we look forward to the next thing, that is the Ballon d'Or. Which player gets recognition to be the best player of this season? Who gets the greatest prize of football, the greatest individual award in football? And there are some front runners, there's some players in the running, and let's take my guesses at who are the top contenders for Ballon d'Or. I'll reserve the best one for the last. So make sure you watch the video till the end. Let's begin with none other than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Kylian Mbappe. Now, Kylian Mbappe for club plus country has made 57 appearances and has scored 54 goals and has 15 assists. Now, that's a great number. That's a ridiculous number. He's scored a lot of goals. He has 31 La Liga goals. He has 10 FIFA World Cup goals and 9 Champions League goals. So, the criteria for a Ballon d'Or is your individual performance, you being decisive in clutch moments like big matches, your performance in the big matches, your performance in your league overall throughout the season performance, then how well your club does, what trophies did your club win, how well did they do, and fourth criteria is, because this is the World Cup season, so how well your country performed in the World Cup, the greatest stage of them all, which is why World Cup will be a big influencing factor in this. Now, okay, we were talking about Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe has had a great season so far. He's been scored 54 goals, which is the second highest right after Harry Kane. So Kylian Mbappe is a clear front runner, not a front runner, but a clear contender for the Ballon d'Or. However, the problem here comes now is your club's performances. Now, Real Madrid has not won anything this season. They have not won any major trophy. No Supercopa, no Copa del Rey, no Champions League or La Liga, which is why this puts a real problem in Kylian Mbappe's Ballon d'Or candidacy. Secondly, in the World Cup, France had performed brilliantly. They had been really insane. Kylian Mbappe became the all-time greatest top scorer in World Cup history by scoring ridiculous 10 goals. I mean, that is just crazy. However, when France faced Spain in the semi-finals, they were defeated very convincingly. Like I said, Spain has thrashed and dominated every opponent they have ever faced, which is why the attack that had Kylian Mbappe, Michael Olise, Ousmane Dembele, Ryan Cherki, Desiree Doué, Bradley Barcola, that kind of attack failed completely against Spain. Now, that also puts a big blot on his Ballon d'Or campaign, because having such a great attack, giving such great performances, only to be shut out by Spain in that convincing manner in the semi-finals, that puts a stain. That definitely does. Let's move on to the second person that I feel will be one of the front runners is Michael Olise. Michael Olise has surpassed Pele in being the all-time top assister in the FIFA World Cup. Another feather in his cap, actually. He's had a great season as well as the right winger in Bayern Munich. He's got 20 goals, 33 assists. That's a pretty great season for a winger, and he also has won the Bundesliga. Now, that he has an edge over Kylian Mbappe, that he has won the Bundesliga. However, like I say in previous videos, like I said, Bundesliga for some reason does not hold that much value, because Bayern Munich always secures the Bundesliga. It is unsaid rule that Bayern Munich is gonna be securing Bundesliga almost every season, because it was the miraculous Xabi Alonso and invincible Bayer Leverkusen season. Otherwise, Bayern Munich has clean swept Bundesliga, which is why it is not regarded that highly when you talk about league titles, say La Liga or Premier League. It's not regarded that high. which is why that puts a small dent in his campaign. And second is again the World Cup, being shut out by Spain that decisively in the semi-finals, not able to produce, even though you became the greatest assister in the World Cup history. That performance in semi-finals again really puts a little dent on his campaign. Now the problem is that even though it's about you and how you performed throughout the entire season, this is a World Cup year. This World Cup year matters because your performances in the World Cup matter. And in the World Cup, people have recency bias. So no matter what you do in the group stages, no matter how good you perform in the group stages, or maybe say round of 32, round of 16, the real moments come in your quarters, semis, and the World Cup final. Now, those are the three areas you have to perform decisively. Otherwise, it does put a dent in your campaign, because no matter what you do before that in the group stages, it's all meaningless. If these are the big matches, the key moments where you have to show that you're a clutch player, and somehow you do not end up doing what people expect from you, there is a recency bias, and rightfully so, because it's the World Cup, the semi-finals of a World Cup and finals of a World Cup. So not able to perform that well at a semi-final stage, it really hurts, because that is the last thing that people remember. They do not remember how great a season you had. The last time they watched you lose a semi-final, and they watched you lose a semi-final without doing anything, without trying anything, and losing pretty decisively. So that really concerns Olise's Ballon d'Or campaign. Let's move on to third player, that is Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal again had a great season. He's got 19 goals, 21 assists, and even though the stats are a little lesser than Olise, he's got great performances. He performs really well on the eye test. He has insane dribbles. He's a flashy player. He loves to take on, which is why anytime people watch him, anytime people look at him play, he always passes the eye test. The eye test is a very decisive factor. It's an invisible factor, to be very honest. A lot of people do not know this, but the eye test is an invisible factor. You might be a great striker, you might score a lot of goals, but if they look at you, if they see that the majority of the goals are coming off as penalties, they're not being through some great play, or they're tap-ins, it hurts. It does not help that much. Or else, if they see you not having that lot of goals and assists, but they see you being the difference in your team, they see you being the difference, being an entertaining player, being the decisive factor as to why your team wins matches, that really helps your Ballon d'Or shouts. That really completely aids your Ballon d'Or shouts. Now that is what helps Lamine Yamal, because despite he has lesser goals and assists than Michael Olise, he has passed the eye test, and people love him. People see him do the take-ons, people see him do those dribbles successfully. And even the World Cup campaign, Lamine Yamal has only one goal and no assists in the World Cup. However, people have said he's performed well. He's got a great ratings because he passes the eye test. He has received a lot of great ratings. He performed well in semi-finals. He was being big trouble for Luca Digne and then Theo Hernandez. And even after that, in the finals, he was a big trouble for Tagliafico, which is why you can see him being on that right flank for Spain has been very helpful. It made him come out in a very positive light, which is why Lamine Yamal is also going to be one of the contenders, serious contenders of the Ballon d'Or, because La Liga was won by Barcelona. Barcelona has the Barcelona has the La Liga secured. Barcelona also won the Supercopa de España. Now Barcelona has 2 trophies. Lamine Yamal won 2 trophies for his club, and Spain went on to win the FIFA World Cup 2026. So Lamine Yamal literally is sitting on a World Cup and a league and another minor trophy. He has 3 trophies in this competition, I think the most out of anybody so far, which gives him a clear edge, a clear advantage. Now, we talked about a lot of attackers, but one kid who has really impressed everyone, no matter what club you support, no matter what country you support, you cannot deny the contributions of this kid, and that is Pau Cubarsi. Pau Cubarsi has had 55 appearances for club and country. Pau Cubarsi has had 22 clean sheets in this season, 22 clean sheets for club and country. He scored one goal. That's a lot for a centre back. But like I said, the stats that matter are his clean sheets. He has won the La Liga because he plays for Barcelona with Lamine Yamal. He has won the La Liga. He has won Supercopa de España, and he has won the World Cup. And the greater part is he was decisive in the World Cup. He's had a phenomenal World Cup. He has been great in the group stages. He has been immensely powerful, and he was the determining factor because he was the centre back that shut out the attack that consisted of Kylian Mbappe, Michael Olise, Ousmane Dembele. That front trio was shut down by none other than 19-year-old Pau Cubarsi in the semi-finals of the World Cup. And then comes the finals. The previous World Cup winners, Argentina, the 2022 World Cup winners, they were shut down. They could not take even one single shot, whether on target or off target. They could not take a shot until 117th minute. That is what Pau Cubarsi did. He was the centre back that shut down the previous World Cup winners and the scariest team in this World Cup, that is France. So he has had a phenomenal performance, a crazy World Cup, which really puts him as, I would say, one of the contenders. He's not just one of the contenders, he's the front runner. He's one of the front runners of the Ballon D'Or this season because he was completely phenomenal in all the key matches, in all decisive matches, which is why I feel he has done a great job. Now, there's some other minor mentions like Ousmane Dembele, but he was not that great this season. Although he had a hat-trick in the World Cup, he has had some goals. He was not decisive factor for Paris Saint-Germain, even though PSG won another treble, PSG won another treble, including the UEFA Champions League. Despite winning Champions League, this season, Dembele was not as great as he was the last season when he won the Ballon d'Or. He was pretty decisive. He was the key factor for that PSG team. However, this time he has missed a lot of matches. He's not played to that level that we expect from Dembele, which is why he's not going to be part of our considerations. Another minor mention let's give to Rodri. Rodri has had a phenomenal World Cup. He's the player of the tournament. He was excellent for Spain. He dominated that midfield. The Spanish midfield was the best midfield out of every other country we have seen in this World Cup. However, he's not had that great of a season with Man City. Even though Man City won the FA Cup, they won the Carabao Cup, he's not had that great of a season with Man City because his performance is very weak because he was coming out from a recent ACL injury. He's not had that great performance. I think we saw glimpses of early Rodri, pre-ACL Rodri, only during the World Cup. So even though he might be one of the mentions, he's not a real contender for the Ballon d'Or. And now we come out and talk about the biggest contender for Ballon d'Or, that is Harry Kane. Harry Kane, who has had a phenomenal season, who's had bonkers of numbers. He scored 73 goals. 73 goals. Now, just process that once. 73 goals in a season. That is absolutely bonkers. I think apart from Messi's 91 calendar year goals, he has broken every other record. He has broken Cristiano Ronaldo's record as well. He has scored so many goals. He's been so phenomenal for Bayern and for England that he's been a joy to watch. I mean, he's just finally playing at a level that we always wanted him to see, a level that he could not achieve at Tottenham, and he made his move to Bayern, and finally at Bayern Munich, he's getting that recognition, he's getting those chances, he's getting the players who can play with him, and that is why we can see the best of Harry Kane that ever was. This is his best version so far. He's had 73 goals. Let that sink in, guys. Let that sink in. Apart from 73 goals, he's got 16 assists as well. So that brings his goals and assist contribution to 89. 89 goals and assists in this season. Now, that makes him a clear favorite for the Ballon d'Or. However, like I mentioned, the same problem with Olise, although he's won the Bundesliga. Bundesliga players do not receive Ballon d'Or that often. Why? Because Bundesliga is somewhat recognized as it's a trophy that is secured by Bayern Munich. It is not something that Bayern Munich has to fight hard to win. Although Bayern has to fight very hard, I'm assuming obviously they have to, because it's a long season. There's so many teams competing. You have to play as hard as you can. But what the problem is that there is not a real title contender in the Bundesliga. Dortmund, as good as they are, they're not real challengers for the title against Bayern. It was only that one season where Leverkusen won as invincibles. Apart from that, Bayern has pretty much secured Bundesliga this entire century. So that makes a bit of a problem, because apart from the Bundesliga, I don't think Harry Kane's had a major trophy. England was out in the semi-finals of the World Cup, and as good as Harry Kane was during the group stages and the early knockout stages, the semi-finals, the quarter-finals, and I would say round of 16, it was Jude Bellingham who shined for England. It was Jude Bellingham who was the better player. So all the eyes, all the attention was on Jude Bellingham. Harry Kane had a great World Cup, but Harry Kane had a great World Cup at group stages and maybe say round of 32. He did not have that great of a World Cup during the other advanced stages. This is where Jude Bellingham shined. So that really, again, puts a dent on his candidacy, and just winning a Bundesliga, not having a Champions League, puts another dent in his title contendership. However, with that great of an individual record, I think Harry Kane has to be a clear favorite. And although I know Ballon d'Or is generally given to attackers and forwards and sometimes midfielders, it's rarely ever given to defenders. You have to be someone like a Paolo Maldini or a Cannavaro to receive a Ballon d'Or. But now let me tell you the twist here. Pau Cubarsi had a similar season just like Cannavaro. Pau Cubarsi played same way as Cannavaro played for Italy. They have both been available for every single minute that their respective teams played in the World Cup. Pau Cubarsi has had almost every match as a clean sheet. Spain has had only one goal scored against them in the entire World Cup. Only one goal. Apart from that, nobody else was able to score against France. Nobody else was able to score against Spain. Now that same trajectory that Pau Cubarsi had as Cannavaro really helps him out. So I believe the two contenders for this Ballon d'Or should be Cubarsi and Harry Kane. And then you can talk about Mbappe, Lamine Yamal, Michael Olise, and any other player you think who has had a great season. Honorable mention, Lionel Messi, although his Inter Miami stats will not be that highly regarded, his World Cup performance was absolutely phenomenal. Despite losing the finals, I think him carrying that Argentina team, him being that decisive and clutch for his country, really helps his name come in top 20, I think. But more than that, I don't think even Lionel Messi goes that far because he plays in MLS. I think the real battle is going to be between Harry Kane and Pau Cubarsi, although I don't think they're going to give it to Pau Cubarsi. So Harry Kane has to be a clear favorite because Pau Cubarsi is very young, and he might win the Copa award. He might win the Young Player of the Year, but he will not be considered as one of the the serious men who are contending for Ballon d'Or. I don't know why, but I think he should be contender for Ballon d'Or as serious as Harry Kane, because he's had, like I said, a phenomenal season. What Harry Kane has done, scoring those many goals, being that great of an attacker, I think it's equally great achievement for Pau Cubarsi being that great of a defender. So let's see. Let me know your thoughts and comments. Let's find out what the Ballon d'Or official rankings are once they're released, and see you in the next one.